Ah, Agent Samuel Strike. Codename Black Unicorn. The one man who thinks people care about the official movie tie-in novels. My men may have been rough when acquiring you, and I hope that it was not too, how you say, uncomfortable.
I think you'll find I was shaken, but not stirred.
You jest, but if you could truly understand the honor awaiting you, you would not be so flippant.
What are you going to do? Force me to watch an endless slideshow of those Vladimir Putin PR photos?
Yet, we do not wish to violate the Geneva Convention. What we have in mind is something more creative.
Colour me intrigued.
We wish you to read a book. If you are able to read the book in its entirety, we will release you.
Huh. Okay, I'll bite. Is it a particularly long book? Are we talking War and Peace, or is it more of a,
It is precisely 218 pages.
Oh, please, that'll take me the better part of an afternoon, and that's if I'm reading slowly. What is the book, anyway?
It is Goldeneye, the official novelisation of the film.
I love that film! Brosnan was so awesome in the role. For England, James? No, for me. Ooh, chills every time I see that. Gotta tell you really screwed the pooch this time, Boris. I'm gonna be out of here in no time. Do you, Keith, take Dorothy the dinosaur to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold, for as long as you both shall live? Why aren't you saying anything? She's the love of your life. Don't you want to be with her? There may be a slight possibility that I overestimated the ease of this task. Goldeneye by John Gardner. Ugh. Hello, Internet. My name is Sam, and welcome to another episode of Crappy Movie Novelisations and How They Ruin My Life. While only released 6 years after the last Bond film, the world had changed dramatically by the time Goldeneye hit the big screen. The Berlin Wall had fallen, the Soviet Union had collapsed, and the Cold War had come to a definitive end. This raised the question, could James Bond still be relevant without the Cold War? The answer was a resounding yes, and the franchise is still going strong nearly 2 decades later. And since Bond owes his existence to books, it's of course natural that a literary adaptation would be commissioned, and who better to write it than John Gardner, a veteran writer with more than a dozen Bond books to his name. With the plot as good as the film, how could it possibly be bad? How could you possibly be bad? Because bad it is. It is bad. Picture every boring high school reading assignment that you've ever had. Combine them, and then you'll have an idea what this is like. I genuinely thought this would be over in a snap, but now I'm paying the price for my hubris. It takes a Herculean effort to turn each page, knowing that the one behind it is going to contain more of the same banality. Dragging my eyes over these words is like dragging my body over broken glass. Except at least it's impossible to make being dragged over broken glass boring. Before we get too far into this literary train wreck, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the plot. MI6 agents James Bond and Alec Trevelyan infiltrate a Soviet chemical weapons facility in Russia. While Trevelyan is caught and killed, Bond manages to destroy the site before escaping. 8 years later, the Cold War is over, and Bond is assigned by the new M to investigate the use of a Soviet-era weapon that uses electromagnetic pulses, the Goldeneye. The Goldeneye is a satellite that apparently orbits the planet Neptune. Unless you're telling me that's supposed to be Earth. Over the course of his investigation, Bond discovers that his old partner, the still alive Trevelyan, now going by Janice, was behind it all. Because Because of a family tragedy, Trevelyan wants revenge on the British government and is planning on using the Goldeneye weapon to devastate London in order to conceal the theft of financial records from the Bank of England. With the help of a technician who worked on the Goldeneye project, Bond is able to both kill Trevelyan and destroy the weapon. It's a fantastic plot, bolstered by an amazing cast of talented performers and breathtaking set pieces. Somehow, Gardner manages to leech all of that awesomeness from the story and replace it with the literary equivalent of a high school chemistry textbook. Brutally boring and nowhere near as clever as it thinks it is, the Goldeneye novelization seems determined to kill whatever joy and excitement that dares to show itself. Remember that amazing moment in the prologue when Bond rides a motorcycle off a cliff after an aeroplane, free falls towards it, grabs the controls and brings it out of its tailspin, cheating death by inches? Clearly the book doesn't, because it doesn't happen here. No, in this book, Bond just jumps into a plane and flies off. How does that happen? If it was the other way around, I could understand that. Maybe the stunt was too dangerous. Maybe the film's budget didn't cover it. Whatever. The point is that being a book, it doesn't need to take those factors into consideration. If Gardner wanted, he could have had Bond escape the Soviets by flying off the runway with rocket-powered rollerblades, and that wouldn't have even been the most implausible thing to ever happen in a franchise that tried to convince us that women would throw themselves at this guy. I just don't understand how this could happen. Why would Gardner take a scene and make it less good than it was? And he does that for the entire book. Take the rest of the opening scene, the moment that reintroduces us to James Bond after an absence of 6 years. Bond effortlessly leaps off a 200-meter dam without breaking a sweat. It's tense, awesome, takes the breath away. However, Gardner felt the need to have Bond constantly worrying about if this stunt is going to kill him, even wanting to abseil before being told it would take too long. If I miscalculate the distance, I will splatter into the damn wall. Now I know what some of you might be thinking. Isn't it a good thing for the hero to show some vulnerability? You're not wrong, but the thing is, it's complicated. You see, Brosnan's Bond has this appearance of being untouchable. You get the feeling he could walk out into a storm without a raindrop hitting him. This changes when he's reunited with Trevelyan. He becomes agitated, he's sweating, and he clearly doesn't care about finishing the mission. That's just a side benefit. All he wants to do is find Trevelyan and beat him to death with his own hands. By having Bond constantly getting emotional, if only in his own head, it robs the confrontation of the punch it packs in the film. Oh yeah, also, the book really wants you to know that Bond and Trevelyan are old friends. Not by showing it, of course, that would take effort. It just chooses to constantly describe Trevelyan as Bond's old friend. It was down to James Bond 007 and his old friend Alec Trevelyan 006 to get the job done. He turned to see his old friend Alec Trevelyan grinning at him. His old friend Alec Trevelyan knelt on the floor. He pulled the trigger and Bond saw his old friend topple over. I might be reaching here, but I'm starting to suspect that this book wants me to know that James Bond considers Alec Trevelyan to be an old friend. Oh, and since we're talking about Bond's character, there's something we need to address. Book Bond straight up sucks. He's a vile douchebag with the thought process of a pubescent boy who is truly terrible at his job. I know that the James Bond franchise has never been what you would call a bastion of feminism, but Dalton and Brosnan's Bonds were certainly better than the others. This loser, however, can't even look at a woman without thinking thoughts that wouldn't look out of place on an MRA forum. He delights at tormenting the woman sent to evaluate him, justifying it to himself because she's rich, and then describing her as a clinging vine after seducing her. He hoped that she was not going to be a clinging vine. That was the problem with some women, even in these days of liberation and equality. You still get clingers now and again, and one like Caroline would be awkward because she obviously had the ear of the newly appointed M. As far as Bond was concerned, the new M was not the greatest news of the year. It gets worse. Later on, Bond and that Goldeneye technician, Natalia, need to escape Moscow, and in a scene that was definitely not in the film, Bond dresses Natalia up as a 15-year-old schoolgirl, uniform and all, and the writing, and I'm quoting here, the writing states that it did his libido a power of good. Oh, God. Ugh. A few pages later, he implies that he's had sex with people wearing that kind of uniform, as he describes it as being not soft on the skin. And the sex scenes, oh my God, the sex scenes. Don't worry. I'm not gonna read anything from those scenes, as I want to keep this as family friendly as I possibly can. But I will say this: I have never felt less turned on than when reading this book. Okay, I can finish this. I can do it. I can do this. I can finish this. This book is not going to defeat me. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. Like I said before, he is truly terrible at his job. Among other things, he falls asleep on the flight into Russia at the beginning and nearly misses his jump. He then makes a meeting with a known terrorist and decides to go swimming with his gun way out of reach, unlike where in the film it's more of an unexpected ambush, and then later on he states that he is not good with disguises or assuming other identities. Bond hated disguises, never liked wearing them, found it difficult to take on some new role. Excuse me? What is your job, you incompetent moron? Disguises and identities is part and parcel of your job. Imagine a banker thinking that he never liked maths. He never liked mathematics. He never felt comfortable putting numbers next to each other and trying to figure out what other numbers they would make. Not much more. It can't hurt me once it's over. It can't hurt me once it's over. Gardner ruined the rest of the story, and of course the climax was no exception. But what really surprised me was just how fast it happened. The book covers in its last 2.5 pages what the film covered in its last 15 minutes. The film, of course, ends with this explosive climax, with the brutally drawn-out fistfight between Bond and Trevelyan, and its chilling conclusion.
For England, James? No. For me.
Trevelyan doesn't beg for mercy. He knows Bond has none. He played the game, he lost, and he accepts it. Gardner just brutally murders this exchange in cold blood and replaces it with this. The man looked up at him, with sweat and terror on his face. "James!" he called, his eyes pleading. "Haul me up! For all time's sake, haul me up! Haul me up!" "Go to hell!" Bond shouted, and released Trevelyan. I just don't understand. Why would he take a scene that was so perfect and ruin it with such clumsy dialogue? I don't understand. I don't understand. And I don't need to understand. I finished the book. It's over. I'm free. I'm free. I'm free. I'm done. You're done. From hell's heart, Die! I'm free to go. I'm free. I'm finally free.
You have finished the book?
I have?
You are free to go.
What do I do with my life now?
It matters not to me. Now, leave. Sir, why are we letting him go?
Don't you worry about him, comrade. He won't get far. After all, our fun is only just beginning.